There's some people that just keep plowing through the training all year. Sometimes they don't even take an off-season break. It's just you look at their Strava, and every single week it's like they didn't have a single rest week or they didn't have a single break in there at all. And I'm going to be honest, I kind of cringe a little bit when I see that.
I'm JP, the stable cyclist, and everything we do on this channel is looked at through the lens of mental health, including this week. Now, my first A race of the season got done a week ago, and I haven't touched my bike since. Admittedly, the Otter Creek 55 did not go according to plan for a lot of different reasons, but that's not why I haven't ridden my bike this week. I've been on a mid-season break that ends tomorrow to let my body rest and recover, but also to let my body recharge for what's left the rest of this season. Now, we should probably define what the mid-season break actually is and what we're talking about. We're talking about a break of 5 to 7 days completely off the bike. The main idea during this time is to rest and get enough sleep, extra sleep if possible. And the whole point is to provide rejuvenation for the body. The pros are you set yourself up for a fresher second half of the year. But there are some cons, especially if you have mental health issues that you struggle with that could be complicated during this time, and we'll get into those later. I coached girls track for 18 years, and any of my athletes who came off of a winter sports season, I required them to take a break for at least a week before they came and started their season with us. It helped them recover from whatever they had gone through during the winter, and it also helped them reload mentally, but I'm terrible at following my own advice. And in all my years as a high school athlete, as a college runner, then as a endurance runner, and eventually a bike racer, I have never, ever taken a mid-season break until this year. So this year, as I started to prepare for the Mater 100, as I knew that a mental health documentary was being made about my journey back to the starting line of that race, I had the opportunity to start working with Adam Saban, and he became my coach. If that name sounds familiar to you, it's because he's the host of the Matchbox Training Podcast, and he's also the host of the Bonk Bros Podcast. He's also a coach at Ignition Coach Co., the coaching company run by Dylan Johnson and Drew Dillman.
Now for us, we've only got 7 weeks. So you're pretty much going to do, that 4-week block or so, 3 or 4 week block of that kind of base 3 mode where you're, kind of mostly pyramidal work, and then getting back into specialty. You're kind of skipping everything in between. And it really won't look a whole lot different than the build up to, what we're doing for Otter Creek. And the reason is it's still a mountain bike race. Mater is going to be longer and it's going to be hotter, and there's going to be more variables that go into it, but it's still a mountain bike race, and you have to have that sharpness for any mountain bike race.
I'll tell you how well Adam and I work together in a future episode, but today I want to give space to mid-season breaks and how important they are. And Adam's in Africa right now at the migration stage race, so he's not really able to talk about this. But one guy who was able to talk about it is Dylan Johnson. Now, Dylan's a professional gravel racer, he's a YouTube sensation, and like I said earlier, he's the owner of Ignition Coach Co. So he's a great person to sit down and talk with about mid-season breaks.
I've done videos talking about the mid-season break, and I'm going to be honest, there's not a study that tests a group of riders in a mid-season break and then a group of riders with no mid-season break, and then the group, the group that had the break came out on top. But there are some studies that point to some reasons why a mid-season break might be beneficial. There's some studies that looked at hormone levels of cyclists over the course of a season. For example, testosterone tends to drop in cyclists throughout the course of a season, and if you give yourself a little bit of a break, it'll come back up. Same thing with blood values. So it's kind of giving your body a little bit of a reset.
My training load has more or less been wide open, or as wide open as I could be since December. The only breaks I've taken were because I was sick in March and in May. Otherwise, I've just been training or racing.
Usually I've been doing a mid-season break for probably 6 or 7 years now. And when you first get back on the bike, you're going to think that you made a big mistake. You're not going to feel that great for the first couple days, but it's amazing how much better you can feel a week or 2 weeks after your mid-season break. Especially if you've hit a plateau and you're not really seeing the power numbers that you were expecting to see, a month or 2 months back. a lot of times those power numbers go right back to where they were. And you wouldn't think that, because a lot of people think, oh, if I take 4 or 5 days off, I'm going to lose fitness. But a lot of times, it's not enough time to lose that much fitness, but you're gaining a lot of freshness. There's some people that just keep plowing through the training all year. Sometimes they don't even take an off-season break. It's just, you look at their Strava, and every single week, it's like they didn't have a single rest week, or they didn't have a single break in there at all. And I'm going to be honest, I kind of cringe a little bit when I see that. They're very self-motivated athletes who will just run themselves into the ground with training. And that type of athlete, is very hard to get them to do this, because they don't want to stop training. And training is a part of their lifestyle. And when they don't train for 5 days, I don't know, it's you don't even know what to do with yourself, because it's just a part of your daily routine. So I'm like that, by the way. When I take an off-season break, when I take 2 weeks off in the off-season, I start going for neighborhood walks, just because I want to get outside of my house and get some fresh air, and I don't know what else to do. But yeah, I mean, so it can be quite hard to get that athlete to do this. And I think that it's important to just explain to that athlete why we're doing this. It's not for no reason. It's for a pretty good reason, and it's the reason that I just gave to you. And usually when you explain that to them, they understand the importance of it, and they take it seriously.
If you're new here, everything we do is looked at through the lens of mental health. And for many of us, the bike is a huge part of managing our mental health. One of my mantras that I use here on this channel often is, activity is the enemy of depression. So the idea of taking away the activity or removing it from our day, that can be really scary. And yet the mid-season break is so important for letting your body rest and recharge. So it's important that we make a plan on how we're going to move through this if mental health is a struggle for us, just like it is for me. There are a few things you can do to make sure you stay sharp mentally. The first one is what I'm doing right now. Go for walks. They don't have to be epic or fast. Just get outside for 20 to 30 minutes, move your body, and let it see the sun. The second thing I recommend is definitely an if and only if situation. If you have been strength training, I would recommend that you continue it lightly, a couple times during this layoff. If you haven't been strength training, ignore this one altogether. Continuing with strength training is important because we know that it can offset the hormone profile, just like the mid-season break can. And so they can work in tandem to do that. But again, it has to be light. Working with your hands is super important during this time. So find little projects that you can devote yourself to for an hour every night to keep your mind and your hands busy, and it'll help you stay sharp. For me, I knew I had new tires to mount on my gravel bike, a rear mech that I needed to repair or replace, and a power meter to install. By going on walks, strength training a little bit, and working with my hands every day, I've been able to stay in a really good space mentally. And tomorrow when I resume training, I'm ready to get back after it. And I know my fitness is gonna be just fine, even though I took a week off. Take the mid-season break if you're able this year. And if you're already past that midpoint of this season, build it into your planning for next year. But also make sure your planning includes some space to keep you mentally fresh while you rest from the bike. It will be totally worth it, I promise. Thanks for hanging out today. We do this every single week. We meet and talk about mental health and bikes. And if you don't want to miss the next time we get together, be sure to hit the subscribe button. And if you enjoyed today's content, do me a favor and share it with someone or hit the like button. Finally, remember that you are loved. And be sure to go tell those around you that they're loved as well. I'm JP, the Stable Cyclist. We'll see you next time.